Well, hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. I'm Corny Swiss, and today I'm driving around the ISU 152 at its new battle rating of 6.0. Now, I've said for a while that, or I have said in the past, I haven't said it recently because I haven't really played the ISU 152. I've mentioned it in passing, but I haven't really played it, and I've always said when I mentioned it that I thought the ISU 152 was over-tiered by a lot. It simply was not equipped to deal with upper rank 4. I mean, it still sees upper rank 4, but it wasn't equipped to be a 7.0, an 8.0, or even really a 6.7. And the reason is that its armor wasn't good at those tiers, and its gun really, it was hit or miss whether or not it performed. There were plenty of situations where the gun just wasn't adequate. Eventually, with guns that rely on just pure power, stopping power, 152 millimeters, there comes a point where they're no longer effective. HE shells no longer pack the punch, and this, you can tell, I'm very rusty with this gun. I'm aiming way over the target. That guy's probably, 600 meters, maybe less. Probably closer to maybe 500 meters. Now that I'm thinking back on it, I was aiming at damn near 800. He's definitely not that far. Took a hit to the side from a Tiger, but the Tiger didn't penetrate it, and this shot went way over the target. I had zero chance of hitting that shot. I mean, that Tiger's probably 500 meters away. He is not 800 meters away like I was assuming. And realistically, prior to this battle rating change, I would have expected to be dead here simply because that would be a Tiger 2, not a Tiger 1. But I get the second shell loaded, and the shell lands right under his tank and causes a beautiful explosion, which results in his tank being utterly destroyed, which is just so nice. But the ISU is going to make my grind for the SU 122-54 a lot easier. It's a fun tank that I can play that just doesn't cease to have fun with, I guess. I mean, it's poor wording, but you get my drift. It's a fun tank to drive, just because, especially when you play it, well, I mean, if you play it aggressively, it can be really fun, but I don't know, I kind of have fun doing the whole secondary fire support thing. Letting the young T-34s and the young KV-85s and IS-1s go forward while I mosey around, kind of at medium range. Maybe take a hit every once in a while, but generally just land horrible amounts of high explosive damage on the enemy. Because realistically, that's still this tank's goal. Historically, this tank was a second-line support tank. It wasn't your typical medium tank or heavy tank. It wasn't even truly an assault gun because it really just doesn't have the armor to do it, not in War Thunder at least. So its goal is to sit at about, 800 to 1,000 meters, kind of behind other tanks, and let sort of those young bucks go forward and take lots of hits while you just kind of sit back, and when they run into targets like Tigers and Panthers and things that are a little more difficult to deal with, you just land an HE shell, sometimes indirectly, like shooting over hills and stuff like that, where binoculars come in tremendous handy. Situations where you can land indirect fire on the enemy, and they can't really do anything about it. And a lot of times, if you connect with one shell, they're toast. Either they're so ridiculously disabled that they can't fight anymore, or they're dead, which death has a severe drawback on your fighting ability. If your tank is knocked out, it is difficult to continue fighting. I've learned this through many games of War Thunder, and World of Tanks, and Armored Warfare, and to some degree World of Warships. It applies in shit. But I haven't really even mentioned what I'm doing on this map. This is a realistic battle on Poland. It's a break game mode, and as you can see from the mini-map, our team is very aggressively taking the western portion of the map, which was the cap zone that the enemy wanted to attack. Now, we have since thoroughly beaten back the enemy defense, who are now back on that ridge nearby their last cap zone, and we have capped our objective. Now we're just trying to move forward and push into their final objective, which we're forming a type of pincer movement, because the tanks that defended our cap are now pushing towards their last cap, and the tanks that were on the offensive, which I guess I'm a part of even though I'm sitting pretty far back, are now moving forward and trying to push their way up this ridge, which is being defended by the enemy. Now I'm trying to dig out this Panther, because I've hit him. Actually, I don't think I've hit him yet. I will hit him. I'll get one hit in. But I'm trying to dig this Panther out to make it easier on the guys who are pushing up the hill, and then I'm going to follow them up the hill. Because my gun is only useful when I can see the targets using my binoculars. Right? Indirect fire is great, but it only works to a certain degree because I need to see where the enemy are. In the realistic game mode that we have nowadays, for a while now I guess, indirect fire is more difficult to pull off. In previous game modes, a lot of times you would still see the the outline, well, not the outline of the tank, but the name and the brackets, which made indirect fire much easier because I could gauge distance easier. I could see generally where I need to put my cursor, things like that. It was much easier to hit someone over a hill. Nowadays, less so, because you actually really need to see the target. But I've kind of decided that that Panther is going to have to be killed by someone else, and it's too difficult for me to really land a shot on him. There's a tiger moving across the ridge. He'd be a nice person to land a shot in. Unfortunately, I'm kind of shit. Well, not kind of, mostly shit. But the shell goes short, doesn't actually hit the tank. I think it exploded near him, or maybe on the hill in line with him, but it was short, whatever it was. And there goes the Panther. I got the assist on the Panther. Now, this game definitely I was out of practice. And hopefully by playing this tank a lot more, I'll get back into practice. I've been considering putting a talisman on this tank, but I'm still in the phase where I'm not sure I want to spend any money on War Thunder. Just, I don't know. Don't think I want to. But if I decide to, I'd probably re-up premium and put a talisman on this thing. Just because I do want to eventually review the YSU 12254. But, it's just going to take a while. It's going to be faster now that this tank's, I guess, viable. Because before I had issues with War Thunder primarily because there were a fair number of tanks that I liked to play but weren't viable. And by viable I mean they were unplayable not by any fault of their own but by the fault of their competition, where they just were too difficult. Now, I really should have taken the shot right there. But, it's whatever. I'm in a strong position because at least he has to come over that hill to shoot at me. The issue is I'm not convinced he will come over that hill. He might know I'm here. He might not. However, I'm now at the front of our advance on the eastern side of the lake. We have plenty of tanks moving in from the west, and realistically, my advice if I was deciding how best to approach the situation is wait for the guys who are coming from the west to force that tiger to deal with them. And then advance up, and advance preferably more to the left, out wide, so that I'll have an easier time spotting him because the slope is gentler. Right now, I'm not going to be able to bring my gun to him until I almost get entirely over the slope, which is going to give him the first shot. That's not something we want to do. I know generally where he is because he's capping. But ideally, I should have waited for allied tanks to move into the cap circle and move close to it oh, there he is, hello. I should have just snapped the shot as soon as it was available, but he shoots my gun. Now, I'm not going to fire, because that will certainly destroy my tank. There's a chance I can back up and someone else will knock him out, or someone will kill him, preferably kill him. Or help me repair so I can kill him, I don't know, both are fine. I'm going to back up behind this bush and start repairing. Now, I don't know, this situation is a little fishy to me. but you'll see. Now the Tiger's going to give me his undivided attention. Alright, and that was a painful hit. Now, my crew are doing alright. I've lost one crew member, and a couple others are wounded. But I'm going to continue to take hits in the side of my tank. I'm repairing the gun, but the repairs are going to take a total of 45 so seconds, which is a little bit of an issue. Now the gun is loaded, and my gunner is, well, my driver and my gunner, you know, well, it doesn't matter if they're alive right now. They just need to be alive when the gun's repaired. So I can turn and shoot this guy who's now pulling out in front of all these tanks. I was really hoping that someone would kill him right here. Just, I mean, he's showing his side, and or maybe he's angled, but you see him taking hits. But he's getting all these free shots into the side of my tank. And at this rate, I need him to miss or bounce one more time. If he does that, now that shell went into the dirt, and it looks like it had nowhere near enough power to penetrate. Now he is stuffed. I see the face of his turret. Sayonara. That's the power of the ISU-152. Power of the SU-152, but as well. I said, yeah, SU-152 as well. But the ISU does it with better armor. And, well, maybe even not. I mean, the armor is manageable at this tier for Tigers, but the thing is that the ISU-152 just is meaner. It has a quicker reload, which can be critical. And it just, I don't know, just gets the job done a little better. Especially when the SU-152 is one battle rating lower. So now I run like a derp lineup where I'm considering adding the KV-2 to it. But I run the SU-152, the ISU-152, the IS-2, and I think I have a T-3485 just because I didn't know what else to put there. Could very easily drop the T-3485 for the KV-2 and just run a real derp lineup. Now there's a whirlwind or whatever that is. Not for much longer. I think this shell actually destroyed everything in his tank. I think that's just the entire components list of his tank. Suffice to say, he is currently dead. He is no longer alive. Now there is going to be a Jagdpanzer 470 over here, who I didn't quite realize we were about to win the game. If I had known that, I would have rushed this shot a lot more. I wouldn't have taken my time. But we are going to win the game before I send the shell, which is unfortunate, but I wouldn't have killed him anyway because I only knocked out his gun. I needed to hit him on the upper casement, not the lower casement. If I hit the upper casement, it goes into his crew compartment and blows him up. But that was a really fun game. It was my first game of this patch, and I feel like I'm going to be playing a lot of ISU-152 to help me grind out to the, what's it called, SU-12254. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I've been Corny Swiss, and I'll see you next time.